I feel like a week removed from our talk last Sunday when I was talking about how the Knicks might be the best team in the Eastern Conference.
Ooh, do you still feel that way, that they are the best team?
Or one of the best teams, at least. I definitely didn't.
Well, let's not quote you on that. Right?
I didn't say they were better than Milwaukee or Boston or Philly, but one of the best teams, right, in the Eastern Conference. Then Brunson got hurt, basically, I think Sunday night. He might have got hurt. He came out of the one game, and then they've lost 3 in a row, and they look completely wrecked now. Like Julius Randle isn't putting up the points that he was. Like, it's just Brunson makes such a huge difference on that roster that losing just him has taken the Knicks to an area that's just not it's not feasible. It looks like for them to be playoff competitive. Because we talked about this yesterday with the West. Was this yesterday? It was yesterday, early in the day. We talked about this, that like it's just not feasible for like a team that has their big guy go out with an injury and then go into the playoffs and expect you're gonna really do anything. Like maybe you have like some fairy tale first round where you beat some team you shouldn't beat without your star. But if he's not there in the deep round, bro, you're not going anywhere. Like it's just not happening in the NBA. Stars are mad difference makers. Like it's not going to be feasible. So Brunson, clearly a huge part for the Knicks because 3 games out, 3 straight losses. Knicks go from looking like potentially the number 4 best team in the East instead of Cleveland to now, man, I'm not even sure if they're the 5th best team.
No, I believe they jumped down to the 6th slot when the Nets took them over for the 5th.
Nets did. Nets are playing so good since moving Durant still.
Well, they moved up yesterday.
Okay, they're not playing so good. But like they're playing relatively well. Like it's surprising to see the guys for the Nets that have really stepped it up that I don't think a lot of people expected. Like, I don't think a lot of people expected Cam Thomas to get these points. I don't think a lot of people expected these guys that were going to step into positions that were being filled by guys who were going to the Hall of Fame. Durant, Irving, right? And last year, Harden. And to not have, it's not working out with Simmons. It's not because Ben Simmons is working. It's just because the Nets seem to, everybody's maybe bought into the fact that these guys were the castaways for the Hall of Famers, right? The Dinwiddies and all these guys feel like they were kind of just, they were a part of these giant parcels that were given up for one guy that the whole world felt was better than them. And these guys have gone into the Nets with maybe a bit of a chip on their shoulder, something to prove a little bit. Well, and they've gelled quickly and they look capable. And it's not that's, I guess maybe the funny thing is like, I think looking at the trades around the deadline when the 2 big trades with the Nets happened, like this year, obviously not the hard one last year because that doesn't work out with Simmons, but the Irving and the Durant trades this year, I think as we looked at those and we thought, that's great for Phoenix, that's great for Dallas, which it hasn't really been great for Dallas, it hasn't been great for Phoenix either because Durant's out, but we never thought of like all the pieces coming back the other way, that how they were going to impact the Nets because none of them were all-stars. They were all just utility guys, but it was a grip of dudes. It wasn't just draft picks. It was a grip of guys that they brought back, and like Spencer Dinwiddie, Dorian Finney-Smith, all these dudes. It seems like they're making Mikal Bridges. It seems like they're making ridiculous strides in Brooklyn that are impressive, super duper impressive. So the Nets overtaking the Knicks is not horribly surprising.
No, it's not so
for
far
5th. But I wouldn't have told you that last week that it was going to happen.
No, kind of surprising.
Super discounting how good this Nets team actually is gelling.
Yeah.
Like with a bunch of utility guys. Like let's not call these guys like a bunch of perennial all-stars. You moved out of the 2 perennial all-stars in Irving and Durant, and you brought in Bridges, all these guys. You brought in these other guys, and they're great pieces. But I don't think anybody expected them to be still contending at the level that they're contending right now. So good. And then Brunson, no one expected him obviously to be hurt last week when we talked about this, but affected by that injury to say the least is the New York Knicks, because the Knicks have 5th to 6th, 6th to God knows where with 12 games left, depending on how quick Brunson is back or if he's back at all.
Well, only time will tell.
Only time will tell.
We'll have to see. What is your take on the Bucks? Do you think they have what it takes to keep their first position?
Oh yeah, okay. You want to talk Eastern Conference? I guess entirely. Like,
might as well. We're kind of on the subject.
We did this West yesterday, so we'll talk the East. And Lakers tonight, by the way. Lakers playing well. Lakers tonight. I don't know. Are we going to be able to? We've got some stuff going on. D'Angelo Russell came back the other night, looked good. AD looks good, doing a bunch of different stuff, not having to be the guy, just number one guy with the ball. Like a lot of these guys that we brought in. And that's with no LeBron. So we'll see.
I was about to say, he's still hurt, huh?
That's with no LeBron. So we'll see Lakers tonight. Lakers got a big game going on against, is it the Knicks? It might be the Knicks.
Oh, damn.
It might be the Knicks who have no Brunson. Ooh, so it might be one of those ones where they've got their star, obviously, because it's not Randall. Because the minute Brunson went out, Randall just fell off the board. So the minute Randall's getting the A1 defensive attention, and Brunson's not getting at least a piece of that, Randall's point production per game looks like it just dissipates. Because the last 3 games, it's not like they've played in games where like it's been super cool. They've been getting beat.
Ouch.
Beat in game by a 5-point beat.
That's beat. Yeah.
They're not looking like the Knicks of the 9-game winning streak from last week.
Ouch, that's gotta hurt them. What about
Bucks is what you wanted to.
Yeah.
You want to talk Bucks. I guess what is there to say in the East or even in the West for the Bucks? I mean, Middleton's come back, but Middleton hasn't put up the points that we're used to for Chris Middleton, averaging like low double-digit points per game. So like, but Brook Lopez, Bobby Portis Jr., Giannis, Drew, obviously, Holiday. Bucks probably win the championship. But,
yeah.
If you're picking right now, if you've got to go with the team that's got to be the best odds, would be Bucks probably win the championship.
Best odds, just to keep in mind.
Right, yeah, write that down. Right. I'm not a great gambler though, so who knows what could happen, right? One injury, Giannis goes down, Drew goes down. But yeah, Middleton hasn't come back the way we're used to seeing Chris Middleton. I'm not sure if he's ever going to return to form or not. I mean, basketball is one of those really finicky ones. It's almost like a running back in football where like once you kind of deviate from being at the very top, it seems to be a real precipitous fall to the bottom.
Oh yeah.
There's no real like
it's a steady descent,
there's no real plateaus. Like there's always young guys with no wear and tear on their knees and stuff, like nipping at your heels, right? Like, yeah. So you're gonna have to put up with that regular. Basketball's a lot like that too. So Middleton might not ever come back to the form that he was ever in. But Giannis, obviously, top form. Drew, still top form. Brooks, like I said, Brooks Lopez, Bobby Portis Jr., a lot of guys, great set pieces for the Bucks. Giannis, probably the most dominant, individually dominant offensive player, at least, in the league. So Bucks, first place for a reason, going to win the championship.
Yeah.
So that's what I think of the Bucks.
How do you think the Celtics are doing? Do you think they can stay in second place, or do you think the 76ers got a chance to take that spot for second?
Okay, so my pick at the beginning, I guess, that's a good way to do this, is to talk about these two in a bundle. I actually like that. My pick at the beginning of the season to win the championship, and I would still stick with this as an emotional pick, not as like I'm saying my most logical pick, which would be the Bucks, would be the 76ers. I think Embiid, Maxey, and Harden are going to, but Tobias Harris is going to buckle down. 76ers are going to beat everybody if they're healthy, because Embiid is maybe the most dominant player in the game. It might not be Giannis, it might not be Jokic, it might be Embiid, and everybody might be sleeping on him, and Philly might go into the playoffs this year. And like you might just see Embiid he might not take anything lightly, because I think that's kind of what he's been known for in the past. It's like Philly goes in, he's really good. There's a lot of guys that are good, but like they just can't seem to, for a guy who's supposed to be in the MVP conversation, really have these like difference-making series outcomes where he just goes in and smokes some team 4-0, and it's just like, whoa, this guy like really is that. And I think this year's that year. I think we saw that year for Giannis a few years ago when he finally won the championship. I think we saw some of that last year with Tatum and Brown for Boston, who I still think are probably a good number 2. I don't think they're probably going to win the championship. I just don't see it. I don't know why.
No,
I know a lot of people like Boston, and they're second, so I'm not sure. I don't really see it. But for Philly,
close, huh?
Philly, I see
Philly
it.
can take
Man.
it,
Philly, I think at third. I see Embiid just kind of turning it up to another level. Like, this is where the legacy thing is going to come into play, because he seems like a guy that plays to win. He doesn't seem like a guy who's just playing for the bag, because Embiid's already good. He's already paid. He doesn't seem like a guy who's just playing just to try to like flex. He's actually playing because he loves the game of basketball. And I think this is like this postseason. If he goes in, Harden's healthy, Maxi's healthy, Embiid's out there, I think Embiid kind of takes control of a series or two, and Philly surprises a lot of people. And Boston is second. Boston definitely is. On a roster-to-roster level and on a lineage from last year making the finals, I would say Boston is second. Sure, they're not Milwaukee, but I just don't see Boston getting over the hump.
No,
I could see Boston getting out of the first round for sure, but I'm not even sure I see Boston.
There.
I like Tatum and Brown, but I don't really know what else that team really brings to the table that I think a lot of people would be worried about. And I can name off more depth on Philly than I can on Boston. If you want to even argue that Tatum and Embiid are as equally as dominant, that Giannis is in a class of his own, but Tatum and Embiid are equally as dominant as each other. There's still more depth on the Philly team than there is on the Boston team, I think, on like a piece-by-piece basis, on a numbers basis.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot more depth, a lot more robustness to the roster, especially even at the top end, Philly to Boston comparison. And then when so that way, even if you want to separate Milwaukee into, so I just don't think Boston's second. We'll see how it plays out. I think Milwaukee and Philly end up in the conference final, and I think all things being equal, if I'm allowed to have my emotions in it, I think Philadelphia beats Milwaukee. But I think if I had to bet with my wallet right now, gun to my head,
Yeah.
fuck, I'd have to go with Milwaukee.
Oh,
It's a tough one. Well, it's a tough one. Milwaukee's so dominant, right? Like, they're so dominant, but I see it in Philadelphia. I see it there. I see Embiid having this overcome, because I mean, he just gets better and better. These playoff losses year over year, they haven't deterred him. He's gotten progressively better as an individual player, and there's no doubting that he's like an A1 leader player. But I think if he really wants to prove it, which it seems like he does, with the way he plays, with the way that he perseveres, with the way that no matter he gets paid or no matter that they go out in the playoffs and he could like regress or pout or get fat or do all these kind of things, he doesn't. He comes back and he plays harder, he plays better. He's having the best season probably of his career now after being good for years. It's like, that tells me this guy wants to win.
Right, yes.
And you have Harden, one of the best shooters in the history of the game, one of the best playmakers, a guy who's learned to play a secondary role now, on top of and still being young enough to make real problems out there. He's like a 10 assist a game guy, Harden, not some bullshit. So James Harden is an amazing compliment. Tyrese Maxey can shoot. Tobias Harris does a lot of stuff other than the Philadelphia 76ers are a team I think a lot of people are sleeping on.
Oh, okay.
Personally. That's what I think of 2 and 3.
What do you think about the fourth place standing here? The Cavaliers. Do you think the Nets could overtake the Cavaliers for the fourth spot?
Another well-built team. Another really well-built team. All pieces have guys that look like at one point or another in their career they could have all-star seasons or runs as all-stars. Obviously you've got Mitchell who's on a run as an all-star basically since his rookie season in Utah. So he's come to Cleveland and been just a hand in glove type of a fit. It's been remarkable. Cleveland was a non-playoff team last year. So Cleveland looks ridiculous. Garland again looks like a guy who came out of the Zion Jaw draft. Darius Garland looks like another guy who could be a perennial all-star. You have Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, a lot of guys look like they're just Cleveland's deep, man. Cleveland's deep. I wouldn't want to play Cleveland in the first 2 rounds. That's who I could see Boston going down to.
Yeah, oh, okay.
I could see all top 4 or top, I could see Boston if they, I don't know. How does Boston end up playing Cleveland? I guess maybe they don't. They probably don't. I guess Boston would play Philly if the top 4 won, because Cleveland would end up playing Milwaukee, right? So I'm not sure if there's really a scenario where Boston finishes 2 and they play Cleveland in the 4th position without Cleveland falling down a bit or Boston moving positions. But yeah, Cleveland would be a dangerous team. I wouldn't want to be the team playing them. Let's put it that way, because they just got stuff everywhere, right? Jared Allen's good. Evan Mobley, like I said, Okoro's good. A lot of pieces. From last year, the Cleveland team that was fucking bummy, that like didn't make the playoffs. I'm like, no, like they gave up a lot for Donovan Mitchell. Like they gave up a lot, but the seamless fit has been you can't predict that. Like you can't assume that a guy just because he was good somewhere else is going to come in and potentially like not just remain as good as he was wherever you just got him from, but get better, like noticeably better, to where Donovan Mitchell has been on the outskirts, but has been in the MVP conversation all year. He's on the outskirts of the conversation, but he's been in the conversation for the MVP. He wasn't that in Utah. He was all-star level, but like MVP conversation level, top 7 player, 8 player in the league. That's pretty considerable. So Cleveland is dangerous. I wouldn't want to. No, I want to bump it. I don't want.
Don't mess with Cleveland.
That's why I wanted to see that Knicks series so bad, the Knicks and Cavs series that we talked about last week, because with Brunson in there, I think with Brunson and Grimes and Obi Toppin, there's a bunch of guys there that can really be the X factor in slowing Cleveland down and opening up that court and seeing if Randall and stuff can really do some things. But without Brunson in the lineup, the Knicks might as well fall, because that's no series at all. Cleveland would steamroll the Knicks. They would steamroll without Brunson in there. So
you don't think the Knicks have a chance of reclaiming their spot from last night's loss?
Not unless Brunson. I don't know if they play the Lakers tonight. I hope they lose. If they're playing the Lakers tonight, I hope they lose.
Oh yeah.
Well, because I'm a Lakers fan.
Let's see who the Lakers are playing.
Go to the NBA thing. Just go to NBA.com. Go to games and go to the bottom one. It's the last game to start.
NBA.
But yeah, if they're playing the Lakers, I hope they lose tonight. But I guess it's all predicated on when Brunson comes back, right? If Jalen Brunson's back in a couple of days, then maybe the Knicks get back on track, because it doesn't look like they're lacking in the chemistry. It doesn't look like they were on any kind of fluke.
So the Lakers are playing the Knicks tonight.
Yeah, the Lakers and Knicks. That's what
Lakers and Knicks. Right. Yeah.
So no, I don't see the Knicks taking back that spot. Who was that? That's a Nets, right? That are in 5th.
The Nets are in 5th.
Nets are in 5th. Knicks have fallen to 6th now. Yeah.
Nets are
Nets are good, bro.
Pre-game right now.
Nets are good. Yeah, Nuggets are. We've been talking about the Nuggets yesterday in the West stuff, because the Nuggets are number 1, but the Nuggets are so flip-floppy. They lose to teams that doesn't look like a team that's that dominant, that really should be that dominant. Like, that's got Jokic, there's a perennial MVP candidate, a 2-time reigning MVP, potentially a 3rd MVP coming this year, which I'm not 100% sure I'm super sold on him getting it. He's like 19th in scoring. Like, not 100% sold on Jokic being MVP so far this year, but we'll see, like 12, 14 more games to go. Denver's super unpredictable. Don't like trying to root for Denver. Don't feel like they come across to me much like Boston, where I'm not 100% sold on their playoff aspirations to go further than they've been going, because I don't know. I just don't see it there. I don't see that cutting edge.
No,
I don't see that hunger. Right. I'm not saying they traded their passion for glory. I'm not saying that because that's a terrible thing to accuse somebody.
It is
because that's like a sellout thing, right? And I'm totally not saying that. I'm just saying some people turn it up to 11 and some don't, right? And some teams turn it up to 11 and some don't. So I guess we'll see. We'll see if the Cavs, that look like such a well put together team, if when crunch time comes, if they can turn it up to 11. Because that's one thing I can't take away from the Celtics, is that the Celtics, much like the Bucks, are definitely tried and tested in the playoffs as far as if they can turn it up. When it's time to go to 11, those guys go. And I think Philly's going to turn that dial as well this year. But we'll see if the Cavs can. Knicks without Brunson, probably not. Nets, strong team at 5 right now as far as depth goes, but no real like ace in the whole player. Like it's a lot of like real good set pieces, but not any like superstars. So like you're gonna have to sell this movie on like script and stuff. You're not getting that Nick Cage kick from the fan base.
Since Brunson's out, do you think the Heat has a chance to reclaim or to take the Knicks spot, possibly move up in the rankings here?
Yeah. I'm surprised actually with the Heat sometimes. Like the Heat shit the bed too. They're another really unpredictable team. I find the Heat, Clippers, Hawks, like there's a lot of these teams where you're just like, you watch some of their games, you're like, fucking lose now. Like you're noticeably better than these other teams. Because like Butler, Hero, Adebayo. No, just maybe not good team basketball, poor execution of a plan. Maybe not adjusting when it's time to admit that something's not working. I don't know what it is with the Heat. I like Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler's a stud. Bam Adebayo's a great secondary, and Hero can shoot the lights out. There's good players in Miami. Miami is obviously Lowry hasn't really turned out from Toronto, but Lowry's old. They shouldn't have paid him as much as they did with his old ass.
Well, good for him to get paid out that much. I would like to get paid that much.
Right, me too. Well, the average salary in the NBA is $10 million a year. That's the average.
Right. 10 average.
It's the highest, right. Because I would say
below minimum wage in there.
And then I would say baseball's next, because baseball's well into the millions for average salary.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then hockey and football are
about even, huh?
Football's a lot of guys that make closer to league minimum than they make anywhere near the top end of salaries, that's for sure. Certain positions make a lot of money.
Right.
Hockey, the money still can get spread around to the 3 positions on forward, defenseman, or goaltender, but
basketball is the cream of the crop, though. Huh?
Basketball, there's only so many players on a team. Like it's just a very small team. So I mean, you're 5 guys on the court, especially to start the game. There's a lot of money allocated to them.
So minimum wage is telling me in the NBA is
low. It's low. That's the average. So it's not minimum wage.
No,
that's not minimum. I'm sure minimum's below $1 million still. Because minimum's below $1 million for the NFL. Minimum's below or $1 million's fucking the minimum is NHL.
That's still, you're still getting paid pretty good.
MLB, like 700 and some thousand, 800,000. Oh yeah, you're getting paid really good. Oh yeah, crazy good.
Wow, $750K to be minimum wage.
Who is this team we were talking about in sick? Heat.
Oh, we were talking about the Heat, yes.
Right.
The Knicks.
I wouldn't be worried about them in the playoffs.
No.
If the Heat played the Cavs 4-5, I think the Heat get stomped, so the Cavs will probably play the Knicks. Or the Nets, rather. And Cavs will probably beat the Nets in a close series because the Nets got a lot of pieces. And then Philadelphia will probably end up playing the Heat, it sounds like, because they'll probably jump the Knicks as Brunson doesn't come back, if that's what it is. And all things remain equal with Butler and everybody healthy right now for the Heat, because the Heat win one, lose one, win one, lose one. But the Knicks look like they're kind of on a bit of a tumble. So the Heat will move up and they'll play Philly, and I think Philly will put a spanking on them in the first round. And then the Knicks will fall back into in the play-in tournament. And then who's after the...
We got the Hawks.
Who's after the Heat? Who's in 7?
We got the Hawks.
Oh, Atlanta. Yeah, there's another win one, lose one. Can't get anything going. Lots of players.
Yeah.
DeJounte Murray, Trae Young, lots of guys. DeAndre Hunter.
Some good names over there, right?
Dude, lots of guys. Collins. They got a Collins.
Well, they got to get rid of the Collins.
No, they're good.
Is Collins good though?
Collins good? John Collins is good. Atlanta could be really good. I don't know how they win one. I don't know how they do this. Because like I look at their team and I see, like, if the East is hard, the East is a hard-ass conference right now. If Atlanta was in the West, Atlanta would probably be a much, much better team. So we'll give Atlanta a bit of a break for that, I think, because it's a real stacked conference at this point in time in the East. Because like top 3 teams in Milwaukee, Boston, and Philly are fucking deep, bro. You talk the Cavs, that's a reckless young, like those guys look dangerous. You might be in for a decade's worth of problems with that Cavs roster if they can keep that team together. So like there's a lot of top end talent and then talent spread throughout. So like I can see why Atlanta has a tough time, but like it does seem like on the box scores when you look at stuff, Atlanta even loses the teams they should have beat.
Okay.
We're like, the fuck is this? Like Trae Young, DeJounte Murray, like beat these guys. Like you guys are crazy good. Like, Trae Young's got to be. People would put him in the conversation of top 10 players in the world. I'm not sure I would, but people would.
So he snuck into that.
He's going to be in that conversation with a lot of people. He's definitely a lot of people's a lot of like favorites list because the way he plays, and he's a fun player to watch. But Atlanta again, I wouldn't. That's play-in tournament stuff.
So do you think the Raptors can play better than the Hawks here? Because the Raptors are basically was at the bottom here. Are they playing like the?
I think the
Shits do?
I think the Raptors. You still got to do the play-in tournament at this point where the Raptors are. I don't know if the Raptors get a lot better or a lot worse from this position. I think they play probably around this spot for the rest of the season. But when they get into the playoffs, all things being equal, if everybody's healthy, Siakam, Anunoby, Van Vliet, Scotty Barnes, Jacob Plottle, whatever, however you say his name, the center.
Plottle Jr.?
No. It's a big white boy.
Potter Jr.
Poeltl. We did this last week. They brought him in from San Antonio, I want to say. They had him once before and they traded him off in a thing. But like he's been playing really well. So Raptors got a lot of guys. Gary Trent Jr. They got a lot of guys. Raptors could be dangerous in the playoffs. If they get in the playoffs into an actual series, if they get through the play-in, they get into an actual series, play the Celtics or something like that, they can be fucking dangerous.
What do you think about the Bulls overtaking
Raptors
the Wizards?
Could be super overlooked. They got a lot of stuff in a lot of positions. I don't think I'd overlook the Raptors at all.
No,
like I said, I think that was big balls at the trade deadline when everybody thought the Raptors should have broke it up, but their GM was just like, "I'll keep it together. I'm gonna keep it all together." And everybody was like, "You're gonna get rid of Anunoby, you're gonna get rid of Siakam, you're gonna trade Gary Trent Jr., you're gonna trade everybody but Scotty, you're gonna trade all these guys," and they were just like, "Nope." Trade deadline passed. They made they brought a guy in. They brought that Plottle guy. They brought a guy in. Everybody was like, "What's going on?" It's like because I think they think they got a shot. I think they literally think that they could get out of the first round if they get in there.
It's probably a little unusual, right?
They're that good. They've still got some remnants of that team that won a championship. They're that good. The Raptors have a lot of guys. They get in there against Boston. Boston starts looking a series past them, thinking they're already going to be in some barn burner series against Philly or some shit like that. If the series, they could get caught with their pants down and have the Raptors be dangerous. So the Raptors are dangerous.
What do you think about the Wizards losing to the Bulls last night? The Bulls leading up or going up in the standings.
So the Bulls are what, 9th now or 10th?
They're 10th.
The Bulls are 10th.
Yeah.
Fuck. DeRozan doesn't have a great playoff record. Levine he started rocky this season. He's been playing better. Another team they thought was going to blow it all up at the trade deadline. Levine was going places. Who else they got there? They got Vucevic. They've got obviously DeRozan. They've got Lonzo, but Lonzo's always hurt. So Bulls. If they make it into the play-in, they're probably not going to win their play-in thing, I wouldn't imagine. But if they do, let's say they get in and guys are healthy and they play a team that's a little hobbled or overlooking them potentially, they're not going to make it out of the first round. They get molly fucking whopped by whoever they play.
Ouch!
Yeah.
Molly
it wouldn't matter. They played Boston, if they played Philly, if they played Milwaukee, that team gets stomped.
No, yeah.
That team gets stomped. They're not that good. No. If they get in, that's maybe only because it seems like right around this spot here, wherever we just were. Who were the team before? Raptors.
It was the Raptors
before that was the Hawks.
Yeah.
And before that was the Heat, right?
The Heat, yeah.
It seems like there's a real precipitous fall of talent It's just happened here now.
Yeah, okay.
From the Raptors team to this.
It's the Bulls and then
Bulls
the Wizards.
Team. Right. Precipitous fall. Like I just said, it's over. So the East is now devoid of talent after we're done. We're done with that. The Raptors, the Bulls are not anything of validity. It won't matter what happens. They can pull a miracle out of their ass in the play-in tournament. They're going to get smoked in round one. Wizards, same thing. And let's say the Wizards make it into the play-in tournament. Beal's fine. Kuzma's going to get a stupid contract in free agency this year that he fucking doesn't deserve. There's nothing else going there. Kristaps Porzingis, like they don't.
No.
Washington's garbage.
There's no wizardry behind it.
There's no wizardry, dude. That's wizard. That's wizard as
That's
fuck.
so wizard.
Dude, that's wizard as fuck.
Oh, damn, that's unfortunate
so
for the
yeah,
Wizards.
the East is good down to the Raptors.
It's
with
pretty
a couple
decent.
really bipolar ones. Like really bipolar. Like I said, Miami, Atlanta, like really, really bipolar, where you can't even tell like what you're going to get out of these teams night after night, despite the rosters looking like they're put together well, because they're very different, obviously. Because I wouldn't say Atlanta has anybody that really replicates Adebayo, but obviously Jimmy doesn't have anybody to play with. It's similar to Trey and DeJounte Murray playing together. Because Adebayo does totally different stuff.
Well, Jimmy's playing by himself.
Jimmy's playing with himself. Jimmy's just smaller, so he's playing different ball, right? Okay. It's different kind of basketball, different built team, different money allocated to stars in different positions and different sizes, but not they're not still consistent. I don't know what it is. Not too sure. Jimmy plays good. Jimmy plays good. Sounds like Seinfeld.
I know.
Right? Sounds like Seinfeld. Jimmy plays really good postseason basketball. Butler has been known for his postseason basketball. So the Heat might get their bipolarness straightened the fuck out. And
right out of them.
They might come in fifth and give Cleveland all sorts of hell. What are they now? Seventh?
It looks like they're seventh.
They're seventh, right? But the Knicks are falling. They can't be too far back of who's fifth? The Nets. So they can't be too far back of the Nets. Knicks are falling. I could see Jimmy Butler sliding in at fifth and giving the Cavaliers all kinds of hell 4-5 in round one.
Nice. Go Butler.
Butler's crazy, but you're gonna have to get a little bit more leaning into the win column for consistency going into the playoffs here, because he's still got 12 games left. They're gonna have to make up probably at least 2 games.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's probably about 12 games, 14 games left, something like that. So that's the East.
14 games left, huh?
You know what I want to talk about the East before we're done with basketball? Is James Wiseman.
Okay.
You want to know somebody who was a bust, dude? I mean, you know this, I guess. The Anthony Edwards, LaMelo Ball draft. There's a guy between this, right? Edwards goes 1. James Wiseman goes 2 to the Golden State Warriors in a year where Golden State was completely just decimated with injuries and guys weren't there and they just fell off the map to come back and then win another championship. But that's neither here nor there. They drafted James Wiseman, then LaMelo Ball goes to the Charlotte Hornets. And Wiseman was playing G League ball, Goof League, like straight Goof League. Shout out to anybody, sorry. If you
Nico!
Right, no, he didn't
he's in Europe, right?
Nico plays in Italy. We love
right.
Nico.
I always think that. Sorry,
Nico Mannion, you're one of my favorites. From that same draft class too, actually. So Wiseman was playing Goof League ball. There's just no place for him in Golden State. They don't play the kind of style, I guess, he plays, because he's moved on to Detroit now, who's a team that a lot of people probably aren't paying attention to, because Detroit is an absolute bottom feeder. Cade Cunningham's been out for exponential period of time here now this season and not going to be back this year.
Ouch.
So so there's nothing really to watch. They're an absolute bottom feeder, right? So it's a team that's kind of devoted to Jaden Ivey, young guy, looks good. Livers, there's a few guys. There's not really anything that's like will make you want to turn the TV on. So you're not going to pay attention to the fact that Wiseman now not playing Goof League ball, playing NBA ball, playing every night, starting out there, getting like some serious minutes, playing above like 30 minutes, putting up 16, 17, 18, 19 points a night, getting 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 rebounds a night. Wiseman, there was a reason he was drafted 2nd overall. It might have just been that Golden State lineup, the way they've got that built, the way Kerr's got that stuff set up. The those big centers that need to actually play with the ball. It's not, the team's not built that way. So now Wiseman is in Detroit, and I feel like as Detroit gets better, which Detroit's inevitably going to, they have to at this point, right, Lord? I'm not a Detroit fan, but like, you've got to think, like, everybody in Detroit's wondering like, how long this rebuild's going to take. But with Cade coming back next year, and these younger boys around him taking another step, and now Wiseman coming in and filling a hole that Detroit didn't actually have filled, that Detroit was lacking in this exact type of player. It looks like now maybe Wiseman. So it's a real redemption story that I think is kind of unfolding on the undercurrent of the NBA right now. As we're going into the playoffs. We're talking these playoff teams and these playoff teams and projections and who might make it and play in tournaments and all sorts of good stuff as the season starts to unwind. You have these teams that are lost to the basement, which is where Detroit finds themselves, in the absolute basement of the NBA of the East.
It must be dark down there.
It's dark down there.
Oh,
but the light that they see at the end of the tunnel in players like James Wiseman, and when Cade comes back, is the redemption. And the Wiseman story, I think, is a bit of a redemption story in the sense that went from goofy couple years there, bust, to a guy who looks like he could be an every night NBA player if he was in the system that kind of allows him to grow into, because he clearly was a bit of a one-dimensional guy. And if you go back and look at Wiseman's college career, he didn't play much in college, if at all. And like, he was recruited really high because of all the particulars, right? He's 7 foot tall, 7'1", really long, has all those particulars to be a guy who, when refined, would be a successful NBA player. But it didn't seem like Golden State either wanted to or knew how to do that. Clearly Detroit's giving him the opportunity now to play at an NBA level, and he's finding a bit of a groove there. And I like to see it, because he was the second overall pick. So I like to see it. And Detroit looks like a team that now, when Cade's back next year and they get their draft pick this year, because there's some draft picks this year. Like, imagine they go first and get Wembanyama. Like, it's going to be great. Imagine they get Scoot Henderson. Like, Detroit is that's one of those stories I think it's going kind of unrecognized, because nobody pays attention to Detroit games right now. But James Wiseman, a draft pick that was looked at as a bust from 2-3 years ago, in between Edwards and Ball there in that 2020 draft, now starting to look like a pretty redemptive story. Maybe on the comeback trail, maybe going to redeem some of that potential that everybody thought that he had so much of. Second overall in the NBA draft was no bullshit, my man.